All right, let's talk about the two biggest names in cannabis, THC and CBD. For like forever, the story has been super simple, right? THC is the one that gets you high, and CBD, well, that's the one that's all about healing. But what if I told you that's not even close to the full picture? Today, we're going to get into the real science behind the high, the healing, and how they actually work together. You know the drill. You walk into a dispensary, and it's pretty much the first thing they ask, indica or sativa. Are you looking for that uplifting, creative sativa vibe? Or are you trying to get sunk in the couch with a relaxing indica? It feels like this one choice is going to define your whole experience. But here's the thing. The science is now telling us that this whole indica versus sativa thing, it's basically an old-school botanical label that has almost nothing to do with the actual effects you're going to feel. The real key to understanding cannabis is hiding in its chemical fingerprint, and we are going to break down exactly what that means. And real quick, just want to give a huge shout out to Uper Weed for making this explainer possible and helping us bring all this science to you. We really appreciate their support. Okay, so to get how cannabis works, we've got to look inside our own bodies first. You have something called the endocannabinoid system, or the ECS for short. Just think of it as this amazing, complex network that's always, and I mean always, working behind the scenes to keep your body in balance, a state called homeostasis. It's been active in use since day one, whether you use cannabis or not. So, this system has three main players. First, you've got endocannabinoids. These are basically your body's own homemade cannabis molecules. Second, you have receptors, which are like tiny little docking stations or parking spots on your cells. The big ones to know are CB1, which are mostly in your brain, and CB2, which are found all over your body. And finally, you have enzymes, which are like the cleanup crew that comes in and breaks down the endocannabinoids after they've done their job. All right, so here's where THC and CBD enter the scene. They're what we call external cannabinoids, and they interact with this system, but they do it in completely different ways. THC, the one we all know for the high, is shaped in a way that lets it fit perfectly into those CB1 receptors in your brain, like a key in a lock. But CBD, it's different. It doesn't really bind to them well at all. It's got a whole other job to do. And the difference in power here is just wow. Your body's own endocannabinoids, they're like a little cap gun, just gently tapping on those receptors to keep things in balance. Then THC comes along and it's like a howitzer. It binds with 1,000 times more power. This massive, overwhelming signal is what creates that intense psychoactive effect we call a high. So if CBD doesn't bind, what on earth is it doing? Well, the science points to it being a negative allosteric modulator. I know, that's a mouthful. But think of it this way. If THC is a singer screaming into a microphone, CBD is the sound engineer at the mixing board, turning the volume knob down. It doesn't take the mic away, it just changes the shape of the receptor so THC's signal isn't quite so loud and overwhelming. And this difference in how they work leads to totally different effects. THC's powerful binding can feel euphoric, sure, but it can also slam the gas pedal on the fear center of your brain, the amygdala, which is what can cause that dreaded anxiety and paranoia. CBD, on the other hand, is non-intoxicating. It actually reduces anxiety. And get this, it also helps your own endocannabinoids work better by stopping the cleanup crew from taking them away too soon. It's a total team player. And this leads us to what is probably the single most important part of this whole conversation, how these two work together. We know that high THC products can sometimes have those negative side effects. Well, it turns out that CBD can act like a built-in seatbelt. And there's a really amazing study that shows us exactly how this molecular shield works. So researchers at the University of Western Ontario did this incredible study. They found that when you give rats THC by itself, it overstimulates a specific brain pathway called ERK. And that's what triggers anxious behaviors. But, and here's the kicker, when they gave the rats THC and CBD at the same time, the CBD completely blocked that overstimulation. The rats just acted normal. It's chemical proof that CBD can literally cancel out some of THC's most common negative side effects. And, this whole idea isn't just about THC and CBD. It's part of a much bigger concept called the entourage effect. The theory is simple. All the hundreds of different compounds in the cannabis plant work better together. They create a synergy where the whole is so much greater than the sum of its parts. And some of the most important members of this entourage are the terpenes. Now, you already know terpenes. They're the aromatic oils that give cannabis varieties their unique smell and flavor. It's the same stuff that makes pine trees smell like pine and lemons smell like lemons. But they do so much more than just smell good. For instance, a terpene called myrcene is known for its relaxing, almost sedative effects. Then you have limonene, you find it in citrus peels, and it's known for being mood-lifting. Linalool, which is all over the place in lavender, is super calming, and pinene can actually make you feel more alert. You see what I mean? The specific mix of these terpenes can totally change the direction of the experience, which is why indica or sativa just doesn't cut it.
Okay, that was a lot of science, I get it. But what does this actually mean for you? How do you take all this new information and use it to make smarter choices next time?
Well, you start by using the right words. Forget indica, sativa, or even strain. The term the pros use is chemovar. It's short for chemical variety. It's a classification based on the plant's actual chemical fingerprint, its specific cannabinoid and terpene content. It's all about the data, not the marketing hype.
And we can make things even simpler by grouping chemovars into 3 basic types, all based on their THC to CBD ratio. Type 1 is high THC, low CBD. This is most of what you'll find in recreational shops, and it's where you have a higher risk of anxiety because there's no CBD to act as that seatbelt. Type 2 has a balanced 1-to-1-ish ratio of THC and CBD, where that protective entourage effect is happening. And type 3 is high CBD, low THC, for people who want the benefits without a strong high.
So here it is, your new shopping guide. First, ignore those cool-sounding strain names. They can mean totally different things from different growers. Second, completely forget indica versus sativa. It's just old news. Instead, always ask to see the lab test. It's usually called a certificate of analysis, or COA. On that paper, you can see the exact THC and CBD numbers to figure out if it's a type 1, 2, or 3. You can even see which terpenes are in there. This lets you predict the effect based on chemistry, not on guesswork. So the next time you're thinking about cannabis, don't just ask indica or sativa. Ask about the chemical profile. The power is finally shifting away from old myths and into your hands with objective data. And as that happens, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are we heading into a future where choosing cannabis is no longer a roll of the dice, but a kind of personalized chemistry?